Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things ready through a common sense lens. So we know there are a lot of things kind of in flux with Warner Brothers Discovery over there right now, right? We know that David Zaslav has got things all set up in place for the company to kind of be bought off into pieces, right? He's got it all broken up. That'll all be officially happening next year, and then people can come in and bid on the little sections they want, maybe get them a good deal on something that they like out there, right? And of course, this has all been the kind of the plan from the get-go when it came to David Zaslav out there. So James Gunn's DCU out there has been something that's been going on for quite a while. We know that they completely and totally 86'd all of the Snyderverse stuff at the end of Black Adam, and we knew that we were getting a full-blown reboot out there. And for better or worse, some of it's been all right. I really enjoyed James Gunn's Superman. I gave the movie an 8 out of 10. You can go check out me and Mrs. Common Nerd's review on that one if you want to out there. But we also reviewed Creature Commandos, and holy cow, ladies and gentlemen, was not a big fan of that television show. It was very obvious that James Gunn definitely did write it in 6 weeks. And from everything I've heard about Peacemaker Season 2, it's even worse than what that was, boys and girls. And at the end of the day, although we didn't review Peacemaker Season 2, the ratings don't lie out there. Creature Commandos did not do very well. It never charted in the Nielsen ratings. And you could argue, well, it was an animated show out there, yada, yada, yada. And despite the little bit of a hit with Samba numbers out there, Peacemaker Season 2 failed to chart on the industry standard Nielsen rating services out there, boys and girls. So that means at the end of the day, it is a flop whether you enjoyed it or not. All of this adds up to a few different factors out there. The James Gunn's DCU isn't exactly looking all that bright out there. And although I did enjoy the Superman movie, there's really no denying that there is very good argument to be made that this movie absolutely cost and lost Warner Brothers money. It's a flop by just basic math out there. Well, our dear sweet friend over there at CosmicBook.News, Matt McGloin, is out there at New York City Comic-Con. And with all the kind of craziness going on out there with Skydance, Paramount trying to buy Warner Brothers Discovery and IEDC whole cloth out there, and all of that back and forth going on, well, it looks like James Gunn's future at DC may very well be in question, boys and girls, because if the latest rumors are to be believed, and this is an exclusive coming from Matt McGloin over at Cosmic Book News himself, which has been a reliable track record for all of this stuff. These are the exact same sources that told him Henry Cavill was going to be in the Black Adam movie and a whole bunch of other stuff that we got right for a long time out there, boys and girls. Well, it may be happy days for a few DC fans out there because James Gunn could be potentially getting fired from DC, and this could explain a lot about some of the activism language that we've seen inside of Creature Commandos and Peacemaker as well. Now, we didn't get any of that in Superman whatsoever. My wife and I both really enjoyed the movie. I didn't see any kind of activist nonsense in there whatsoever. Grace Randolph even called the movie misogynistic out there. So it's one of them situations where it's not everywhere, but it is definitely predominant in certain aspects of James Gunn's storytelling. And according to James Gunn himself, right now he's being allowed to do whatever he wants. And if David Zaslav was truly trying to build a long-term brand for success, would he really be allowing James Gunn to get away with all this activism? Or is David Zaslav already planning on washing his hands of the whole process out there because this sale is imminent and he just wants to end up making a bunch of money off this? Well, we've got a lot of insider information over here from CosmicBook.News, and we're going to get into all of the juicy details of that, explaining the entire situation and that James Gunn might be on very short time over there at Warner Brothers Discovery and as the head of DC, and who his potential replacements might be, and whether or not this is a good thing for the fans or a bad thing is what we're going to check out. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,200. We're inching our way closer and closer to 23 on our journey to 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 2,291, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Would it make you happy to see James Gunn out as the head of DC? Would you like to see a full-blown reboot from what he's done, or would you like to see somebody else come in and take over the reins and carry on with the characters and the stories and the actors that we've all grown to love in a certain degree? I mean, I know I love the casting of Superman. I would hate to see a lot of them all go if that ended up being the case, and honestly, it wouldn't be fair to David Cornsweet or Rachel Brosnahan in any way, shape, or form. It's not their fault all of this is happening. Or do you believe none of this is absolutely true and James Gunn is going to carry on going forward with his vision at DC forever, no matter who ends up being the new bosses out there? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, boys and girls, from CosmicBook.News and our dear sweet Matt McGloin. James Gunn out at DC with Warner Brothers sales. Exclusive. Ooh, we love an exclusive. With Superman reportedly bombing financially, and I'm sorry, I liked the movie, but the numbers don't lie. 2 + 2 still equals 4, and Superman lost money at the box office, boys and girls. And with Peacemaker Season 2 flopping with fans, didn't chart on the Nielsen ratings after all, and that was having Season 2's first 3 episodes available, plus all of Season 1. Yeah, still did not chart. You know what did chart really, really well and have all of the rest of its stuff do well? Dexter for Paramount. Yeah, Peacemaker couldn't pull that off. So, with all of that going on, Matt reached out to his insiders about the state of the DCU under James Gunn. This is where things get interesting, and the juicy details are down below. The short of it is that James Gunn will be out as the head of the DCU with Warner Brothers Discovery sale. I'm told if David Ellison of Skydance Paramount buys Warner Brothers Discovery, that Mike DeLuca will be in charge of DC and do a completely new start. Now, if you don't know who Mike DeLuca is part of a team duo over there at Warner Brothers Discovery, him and Pam Abdy. Now, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy were responsible for the Joker 2 disastrous dumpster fire. But Michael DeLuca is also responsible for really awesome things like the Minecraft movie that obviously made them a lot of money out there, and a few other awesome projects, including being the guy that found the director and creator behind the Blade trilogy that was obviously, especially that first movie, was absolutely fabulous, right? So this might be a good alternative to James Gunn just with all of that. So that being said, this is the general state of where all of this is going. Let's get into all of the reasons as to why that might be happening. Gunn recently said he's doing whatever he wants with DC. His words, not ours. That sounded odd to me. As if you're building a new universe, you would want to be successful with the fans. That's not happening, as both Creature Commandos and Peacemaker failed to chart on Nielsen. They don't have a big audience, and Gunn claims that Peacemaker Season 2 was meant to be a sequel to his Superman movie was pure BS. It was nothing more than marketing nonsense and garbage. It's one of the situations where the few characters that did show up in that haven't shown up very long, and Peacemaker's mostly been on Earth X for the entire season. So yeah, not a lot of opportunities to see Superman flying around in the background if that's what you're doing. So once again, that also explains why Samba might have got a nice little jump at the very first episode, right? But notice Samba's been awful quiet since then about how them Peacemaker numbers have been doing. I wonder why. Superman also failed to resonate with international fans. Its box office also came in under Zack Snyder's Man of Steel by a large margin. And that's even without factoring in inflation out there, boys and girls. The movie lost money. Didn't lose a lot, but it did lose money. It didn't make a profit, and at the end of the day, profit's the important part. Gunn's approach to the DCU has been all about divisive messaging, and it's splitting the fan base. And honestly, that's an absolute fact. I called Peacemaker Season 2 woke, and the fans out there, the woke Gunn fans out there, lost it, boys and girls. That's the worst ratio I've ever gotten on a video ever in my 4 years of making videos. It's a 6.9. Giggity. 6.9% like to dislike ratio. That means only 6.9% of the people that interacted with the like and dislike button actually liked it. Worst ratio I've ever gotten. But you know what? It's got over 500 views on it, and every one of those counts to ad revenue. So thanks for the comments, all you little freaks out there. Matt says, I am of the opinion that Gunn is doing whatever he wants with DC because his days are numbered and he knows it. So he's getting himself, all of his friends, and his wife big paychecks before Warner Bros. Discovery sells. And with the comments that he's made, the kind of attacks that he's made on certain segments of the culture out there, it all makes sense that he's kind of going after his perceived enemies, right? James Gunn blames conservative Christians for getting fired from Marvel for the first time and getting into where he didn't get to be in charge of Marvel's like basically universal kind of segment of the storytelling out there, right? He blames them for that. And that has been very apparent by him taking shots with Peacemaker Season 2. And if that's the case, and that would also explain why David Zaslav hasn't intervened and told him to knock this stuff off and allowed these kind of things to happen, because David Zaslav knows that James Gunn's time is numbered as well as his own, that he won't be sticking around for this stuff after it goes. They're just wanting to make content for content's sake to make it look like it's worth more than what it actually is. And that's the problem, is even a lot of investors out there, because they're either busy or lazy, don't have the time to read past the headlines, and certainly aren't watching channels like mine or anybody else's out there breaking this kind of stuff. A lot of people out there that are much better than this, me, by the way, breaking all of this down out there and letting them know how the true fans actually feel and what the numbers actually are, which is one of the reasons why the trade magazines run cover fire for these studios out there. So that way Wall Street doesn't completely and totally abandon them. If Wall Street even had half an idea how unprofitable all of this stuff has been over the last decade coming out of Hollywood, they would abandon them and they would call for everyone to be fired, the earth to be salted, and no one ever speak of it again. Because trust me, they've lost over $1 trillion just in the last decade betting on the modern audience. And what did Gunn do? Decided to launch his new DC television universe anyway, with the exact same kind of nonsense. That means that the sales goes through, James Gunn is out. So I reached out to my Hollywood insiders. Here's what I am told. These are the same Hollywood insiders that have been right so many times in the past, boys and girls. Recently saw the big news that Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy re-signed with Warner Brothers. Honestly, that kind of surprised me considering the other information we've heard. But when you look at their track record, it actually makes sense. In Deadline's report, they basically said it was because of the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery. David Ellison is looking to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery. So Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav is putting people in place that Ellison wants. That means Ellison wants DeLuca and Abdy in charge of Warner Brothers films, right? This is Deadline and everyone else saying this. It's not just Matt, and that would make sense. So maybe David Zaslav's just plain hard to get with Ellison, because I know the rumor is that Zaslav's one of them evil conservatives out there in Hollywood. Oh, the horror. And obviously it's been very obvious as to who Paramount's and Skydance's friends are right there with the administration and everything else. So we know where they feel about things, right? So it could be him just plain hard to get and holding out for things at the end of the day, or really does believe he can get a better deal out there. So, but it sounds like he's trying to set this up. And you know what? They've got a good pedigree, so they would look good to other potential buyers outside of Ellison as well. But that's what the insiders are saying. You'll notice that Gunn has pivoted from his planned Gods and Monsters storyline into what he calls his Superman family saga. Have you guys noticed that? Because I do remember that. That was one of the things that got me excited for Swamp Thing, which looks like that's probably not going to happen. Clayface is supposed to be part of that Monsters thing. The Wonder Woman stuff that has never fruition, none of that. And the television series like Themyscira has never come to fruition. We have nothing about when we'll ever see Wonder Woman. We don't even have any real ideas about what we're going to do with Batman yet. So really, it looks like a lot of the stuff that we thought was going to be this major, expansive DC universe is now starting to fall flat, and that's not a good sign. The Superman family is all Gunn. The Gods and Monsters storyline is likely ditched because Gunn knows he can only get a select amount of movies out before the sale. Yep, which would make sense because the new bosses might want to go in a different direction. I've also been told that the reason why DCU projects have been stalling is because of Gunn's interference. Yeah, all of us out there that are really itching for Keanu Reeves to return in Constantine 2, yep, got nobody to blame but James Gunn. The filmmakers want their own vision and not Gunn's. I'm told that the most visionary directors in Hollywood are staying away from not only DC, but Marvel and Star Wars. Boy, I wonder why. Star Wars, we know, is Kathleen Kennedy and all of her self-inserts over there at Disney. Now, isn't it, boys and girls? Marvel, Kevin Feige's flat out told us he watches every project 5 or 6 times before he allows it to actually come out, while taking notes and making them go back and change things the entire time. Boy, I wonder why those projects cost $300, $400, $500 million a piece. So needless to say, it sounds like it's the exact same thing over there with Gunn, because this is one of them situations. Because the most of the visionaries believe they don't want any part of this because life is too short and everyone is looking for original properties. And why wouldn't they? Consider the state of a lot of the legacy properties that we've had. Marvel, it's in the toilet. Star Wars, it's a dead franchise. DC is in a very rough spot and has been for a very long time and is currently not profitable. So why would you want to get involved in any of that kind of stuff out there if it's not working? We just saw Tron Ares flop massively at the box office. No, I want to do my original own thing too. And honestly, that's what most of the audiences have been asking for a very long time. Original ideas and original IPs out there. I'm told Snyder is happy doing original stuff, but would only return to DC for The Dark Knight Returns. We've already done a video over that. I'm told that if Warner Brothers does get sold, that whoever buys it wants a completely new start. That could be interesting. And like I said, I hate to see David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan go. I think the casting for that movie is spot on. I would hate to see all of them. So maybe, hopefully, we can get them to be carried over. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Well, it's been reported that Skydance is eyeing purchasing Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm told Universal Comcast is still in the mix, and he knows they've been eyeing Warner Brothers Discovery for years. What I'm told is that if David Ellison buys Warner Brothers Discovery, is that James Gunn will be out. David Ellison's brother, billionaire David Ellison, is closer to President Donald Trump. Color a shock there. And we know James Gunn ain't exactly the most friendly to conservatives out there. So Peacemaker isn't getting to season 3. James Gunn already confirmed that. Got a lot of hate on that video too. And Gunn lied about a family-friendly approach to DC. I mean, yeah, was it like Peacemaker started off with like an orgy? By the way, a bisexual orgy, mind you, boys and girls. I'm told that actually nobody in the building knows his status except for Gunn himself. But his actions speak as to what might happen. Why not use your last few projects to take shots at your perceived enemies? Just like in Creature Commandos with all of the incels, the Sons of Themyscira, and just like in Creature Command, just like in Peacemaker out there, boys and girls. Blah. Common Nerd, raw and unedited after all. That's why I got 6 kids. But at the end of the day, boys and girls, they did the exact same thing with Peacemaker Season 2, right? Christians are Yazis. They're the bad guys from World War II. Color a shock there. It looks like that's exactly what it is. Why not set everything on fire on the way out the door? Because we know that woke goes broke. It does not sell with general audiences. Again, it's obvious, and Gunn has said it himself. He's doing whatever he wants with DC, and it's because with the sale, his DCU will be dead. Let's hope so. At least, I don't know. I like the movie. I'd love to see those characters continue. I'd love to see that idea continue. I don't want Peacemaker and Creature Commandos in the forms they're in to carry on. I like a lot of the characters. They need better handlers. They need a lot better handlers. Back to David Ellison. I'm told that Mike DeLuca will take over DC. Recall how my insiders told you about the real ending of The Flash, which is something Gunn completely changed. DeLuca wanted to bring back Zack Snyder's DCEU. That was all the stuff we'd heard from the get-go out there. And we saw what happened with that. Warner Brothers is broke after all. And hey, you know what? We ain't got nobody to blame but Walter Hamada for that one. I won't get started on that one again right now. Which would in part led to the return of Henry Cavill as Superman and the return of Ben Affleck as Batman, with a Batman multiverse happening. That all got scrapped when Gunn took over DCU. I'm of the opinion that Gunn knows about his eventual sale of Warner Brothers Discovery, and that Zaslav handed him over the reins and gave him the ability to do whatever he wants before the sale. They just want DC content out there to make the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery look better. Why would they do that? Why would they spend money on projects that are probably going to fail, at least with the audiences and the fans? Because an active property, an active IP out there producing content right now, even if it's not great, is a lot more valuable than a dormant IP that's been sitting on the shelf for years, which you could argue has actually been what's happening with DC for a long time, because the last few projects that came out have been on the shelf already for years. So yeah, that was to why they would end up doing that. Back to DeLuca and DC. I'm told he won't be bringing back the Snyderverse as everyone has moved on. He'll be starting a new DU, a universe under David Ellison and Skydance. It's my guess he will bring back Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Yeah, I think we could all definitely like to see that one. We also know Gunn's history with conservatives, which also likely explains Gunn's DCU agenda. He's getting it all out there before the sale. Mike DeLuca discovered David S. Goyer, who is known for Blade, Man of Steel, and of course, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Mike also brought in Sinners and Weapons and oversaw the Conjuring franchise, which has been very successful, as well as Minecraft. He knows cinema, history, and global movements, and is a die-hard comic book fan, the insider said. Now, I, for one, boys and girls, love the sound of all of that. Will this all actually happen? Will all this come out of fruition? Well, Matt's insiders have had a very, very good track record of being accurate in the past. I don't see any reason why to discount this information and not basically take it as almost as good as gospel, right? If that's what we're looking at this point, because the track record has been so accurate from these inside sources over and over again. And you know what? That's probably going to make a lot of fans happy. Because James Gunn, despite the fact that I really did enjoy the Superman movie, I know a lot of fans didn't. I know a lot of audiences didn't show up for it, and the international audience completely and totally rejected it. And you can come up with a million different reasons as to why that. There was some marketing around it. The people were like, oh, it's going to be an immigration allegory, and it's woke, and yada, 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 which none of that ended up being true at all in any way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, that was the perceived image of things. And James Gunn hasn't really done a lot to prove that to us otherwise. Creature Commandos had the Sons of Themyscira, right? Peacemaker Season 2 has all of the Yahtzees. Well, they're Christians. They love Jesus, implying that Christians are Yahtzees, right? And at the end of the day, this is the kind of stuff that comes from a petty man who knows he's on his way out, and it's his last little gasp of being able to take a dig at his perceived enemies out there in the world. And unfortunately, it really hasn't done anything to help out DC overall as a whole. You could argue that Separate Man is a success in some aspects, but it's an absolute failure in others. You can't argue that Creature Commandos or Peacemaker Season 2 are a success in any way, shape, or form. They're abysmal failures. They failed to resonate with fans. They failed to resonate with audiences, and all they did was cost DC hundreds of millions of dollars in wasted potential on something that could have been done towards something much better. And it sounds like the reason all those Elseworld projects that we all want to come to fruition is because James Gunn doesn't want them to come to fruition, because they're not going to give him the kind of activism he wants to finish off his DC tenure with. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, there is a very good possibility that James Gunn will indeed be fired from DC in the near future. And I, for one, think it might be the best thing to happen for the brand overall, because James Gunn has danced with the devil in the pale moonlight, believed all of the lies about all of his perceived enemies that the devil told him, and it looks like he may end up indeed getting burned. And I, for one, think it might be the best thing out there for all of the fans. All this be sad to see David and Rachel go. But at the end of the day, it might be the best thing for all of us. And it's definitely exactly what James Gunn deserves. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.